who deal with the aftermath of some of the most dangerous and unimaginable circumstances.
What I am hearing, a lot of the chiefs calling me or emailing me, hey, I had my officer just come in and say, there was great training, please send everybody.
As a woman going into the program, I was like, there's a lot of men in here. Not too many women. I started listening to some of their stories, but when I actually saw one of them cry, I was like, oh my God, it's okay to speak because no one's gonna judge you.
I don't look to alcohol to take care of my issues. Years ago, if I would have said to my guys that I meditate twice a day, they would have laughed at me, but I do.
The Public Safety Communications Network, FirstNet, has been rolling out the Struggle Well training nationally since 2021. It's a program, sadly, that's needed, with law enforcement officers 54% more likely to die by suicide than the general population, and less than 40% of first responders report their mental health concerns. Joining us now, Director of Responder Wellness for the FirstNet program at AT&T, Dr. Anna Courie, and the Chief of Police in Chesterfield County, Virginia, Colonel Jeffrey Katz. His police department has undergone the Struggle Well training. Good morning to you both. Dr. Courie, I want to begin with you, and we should just say up front how sad it is that as a society we need this program, because these kind of shootings that you're talking about are so rampant and widespread that it's a real problem that law enforcement deals with in the aftermath. So can you explain a little bit about how it was born, who has access to it, and how it works?
Absolutely. Our first responders are struggling. The rates of PTSD, depression, and anxiety far exceed that of the general population. And they're really looking for solutions and evidence-based programs that can help it and embed it into their training. So it's really a part of how they answer their community's calls for help. Because what does a first responder do when we discuss police, EMS, fire, dispatch, emergency managers, and frontline healthcare personnel? They're answering somebody's worst day. They're answering a call that nobody wants to go to. And as a result, those are considered traumatic events. They're exposed to more traumatic events in a lifetime. And so that has enough impact on their day-to-day life. So what we wanted to do was partner with an organization, a nonprofit called the Boulder Crest Institute for Post-Traumatic Growth. And this is really looking at how do we get upstream from those problems like PTSD, depression, anxiety, and suicide in a way that's effective.
So Colonel Katz, good morning. Hoping you could tell us a little bit about what it was like undergoing the program, how it benefited your department, and why do you think it was needed?
Well, it's funny, when I saw the video for the introduction, I thought to myself, the gentleman talked about meditation. And, just 2 years ago, if somebody told me that I meditate twice a day, I would have told them that they were crazy. It was an absolutely life-altering program. Learning the practices and principles of post-traumatic growth really help you understand that you can lean into trauma and you can use it as a mechanism to grow and to become stronger. And that's a very powerful thing for someone who goes through and experiences sometimes the unthinkable. I think a lot of folks don't think about what police officers and first responders see on a daily basis. But if you think about the times that you've called 911, those were the most horrific times in your life. And our officers and firefighters, dispatchers, first responders are handling those as a matter of routine on a daily basis, a number of those calls. Over time, the cumulative effect of that is profound.
So, Colonel Katz, could you maybe give us an example of the types of instances that a cop or an officer or first responder would go through and the difference having this type of training under his or her belt?
Sure. Well, what this type of training does is it provides a foundation of practices and principles that first responders can use to center themselves, to put themselves in a position where they're more able to handle situations from a lower stressed baseline. And I think that's critical and important because what that allows us to do is to enter into an otherwise stressful situation not hyped up, more thoughtful, more centered, more emotionally well adjusted, and I think also to be more compassionate. We don't have to have our armor up all of the time. We can have our guard down, and we can be people helping people, which is really when we are at our best.
Dr. Courie, I mentioned the statistics in the lead-in that so many first responders are not alone in this. So many Americans just don't seek help for mental health challenges that they are facing. So how do you convince a police officer, an EMT, or someone who might need that help that it's okay, that the door is open and some of your colleagues are doing this and it's worth it and in fact can change your life?
That's a great question, because what do our first responders, they're called heroes in our communities, right? And that's actually something they're very uncomfortable wearing, that mantle, if you will, because they recognize that they do struggle. But we all struggle, and it's something that we can all recognize in each other. I think one of the most powerful things about the Struggle Well program is it sells itself in a way. Once you get first responders going through the program, they start to see the benefit in their personal lives, how they respond to traumatic incidents, how they interact with their communities, and consequently, we actually haven't had to convince first responders to attend, because once they start hearing the language and the experience from other first responders who are oftentimes what we call expert guides in this process, teaching them how trauma is a part of life, and we're not going to sugarcoat it that these are difficult professions, but that there are grounding skills that they can build into their life, into their work, into their career, into their professional development that will help them be successful.
And before I let you go quickly, Doctor, how can a police department, maybe someone watching this right now, how can they partner with you? How can they access this help?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that I would encourage any agency to do is to reach out to one of our agencies that are already implementing Struggle Well and post-traumatic growth into their divisions, so that you can talk from somebody you trust, right? Somebody who walks the walk in your own profession. You can also reach out to the Boulder Crest Institute for Post-Traumatic Growth. And obviously the FirstNet Health and Wellness Program is standing by to answer questions and help, because we've been walking this walk with public safety as a part of deploying with public safety as a part of their communications, seeing the effects of answering somebody's worst day. And we're there to help, and we're there to connect you to those possibilities that transform organizations to do their jobs better.
The program from FirstNet is called Struggle Well. Fascinating stuff. Dr. Courie, Colonel Jeffrey Katz, thank you both for being there. And Chief, thank you for your service to your community. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And still ahead this morning, tributes from fans and